Hello and welcome to another webinar hosted by Seek and the one and only Andy Starnes. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Andy brings a wealth of knowledge and 30-year career. He just retired as a battalion chief in Charlotte, North Carolina last October. Today's webinar will be a refresher on situational awareness cameras versus decision-making cameras. And if you have any questions, just please type them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them in a timely manner. Andy, with that being said, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we're going to focus on the differences between situational awareness thermal imaging cameras versus decision-making cameras. The majority of the webinar will be focused on the situational awareness side, but we want to help educate and basically show a lot of people some differences, some advantages, some things you may or may not be aware of. If you've taken these before, this will be a refresher, plus with some new information and new media and things that we've added, because we're constantly revising, editing, and trying to make these things better for everyone that attends. And we thank Seek Thermal for allowing us to have this so we can offer these trainings for free. For every month, we're offering special offers such as this for everyone in the fire service so that you can attend these trainings. So thank you for doing that. So let's talk about the differences. Situational awareness camera versus a decision-making camera. Many people have accredited me with giving these names or terms. I did not. I just simply started repeating back what I was being told by manufacturers. The very first time situational awareness thermal imaging cameras was used was by Scott Safety when the Scott site was produced in 2016. And in their actual manuals, it talks about the differences. And if you delve into it, it says these devices were intended to prevent firefighter disorientation and maintain or aid in maintaining situational awareness. This picture of a FirePRO 200 is an example of being able to watch over two firefighters as they move through a room and through a doorway. These were able to help you regain orientation, get back to your crew if you're lost or disoriented, see which way the fire was, but they were not designed to replace higher resolution decision-making cameras that were built differently for a different purpose. So one of the things that Scott says in their manual, it says that this is not intended to replace handheld thermal imagers within the fire service. It says it's designed as not to replace a higher performance search and rescue thermal imagers available today. And think about that was written in 2016. So the technology has gotten even better since then. But it talks about when they made that device, that it was designed to give a new set of capabilities to increase the level of safety and drive improved situational awareness to every firefighter on the fire ground. And about that time, FirePRO released the K2. Seek came out shortly thereafter with the FirePRO X. So there was a lot of newer, smaller devices on the market. Positive side was these were supposed to help firefighters in aiding or gaining situational awareness, as we talked about. However, there's another side to it, that firefighters, when they were becoming lost and disoriented, they weren't aware of the features of these cameras, and they didn't perform as well as their counterparts, known as decision-making cameras. So each year, firefighters continue to become disoriented during firefighting efforts. Numerous contributing factors are involved in these instances. However, in general, the fire service is not providing firefighters adequate secondary means of orientation. When I mean secondary means of orientation, I want you to understand your primary means of orientation should not be a technological device that's not intended to take high heat conditions for a long period of time. These devices can fail and have failed in high heat based on the way we treat them. So if we have a secondary plan built into our device or carrying on us, we should know how to use that in the event of emergency. However, training has not been added to these devices and firefighters have not been educated on. So what is a firefighter's emergency plan when they become lost, when all of their fundamental skills have not been able to get them back on track? They can't find their crew, they can't find the doorway. What do they do then? This is where these devices should come into play. However, there are many different features, different resolution capabilities, and they've been around for a little while now, and there's quite a few of them. What I want to focus on today is the fact that when we did a survey in 2020 with Firehouse Magazine, we helped contribute to that survey along with a lot of my friends and several other very smart firefighters. The results showed that 40% of the American fire service did not know the difference between a situational awareness tick and a decision-making tick. Now, why is that important? Because what happened was when these came out, people saw price and they saw thermal imaging camera and they bought them. And then the handheld cameras at the time might have been slightly out of date, but were still higher resolution, better durability, and faster, slowly started disappearing. We also noticed a trend in 2020 that fire service tick use actually went down. So 4 years after these devices were released, thermal imaging camera usage did not increase, it decreased because the survey showed that firefighters were leaving these devices on the truck 50% of the time. Why? Because they weren't aware of the capabilities of these devices, that many of them were not designed to perform like their decision-making counterparts. If you want to go even further than that, we've got a 1-hour webinar that we've done previously that breaks down these, and you can scan it, use it as a refresher. So you'll have this webinar along with the previous one. That'll give you a little bit more information, but we're going to focus on these situational awareness thermal imaging cameras and how they differ from their decision-making counterparts, where they are a positive and where they could be a negative, because every tool could have a positive or a negative if we use it improperly. Let's give you a little backstory. This is a picture of a Seek FirePRO X 2019, and I want you to see how far Seek has come. I'm not comparing other manufacturers or beating up other manufacturers. I want you to see that Seek in itself has improved dramatically from the FirePRO X, which was a 16 hertz frame rate, which claimed a 320 by 240 resolution, to the FirePRO 300, which is 320 by 240 at 25 hertz with improved mixed gain mode, and it's a much better picture clarity. The original models that came out were anywhere between 9 and 16 hertz frame rate. The human eye sees around 27 hertz. So some of these devices, as my friend Chief John Lightly says, are 3 times slower than the human eye. Well, if the whole intent of these devices were to keep you safe and regain orientation, if you moved your head faster than that device could refresh, which is pretty common, then you could still get lost or disoriented by using it, overusing it, or trying to find your way out in a hurry. So that did not work out well. And that's not because it was intentional to slow firefighters down. It was designed because many of these devices had to comply to something called EAR or ITAR, which is a restriction on export these devices because they're considered military devices, or arms, export arms regulations. International trades and arms regulations basically says anything above 9 hertz has to have a lot more paperwork done before it goes to certain countries, and certain countries are not even allowed to get anything above 9 hertz. So that was the reason that they were originally done that way. The other issue with many of them was the image quality was much less than what firefighters already had. So they got a newer device that's slower and also had diminished image quality. And some of them had ergonomic issues. They just were not easy to use. And then we had small displays, with an average firefighter having problems with eyesight, especially looking at something up close. It can be very difficult to see something like a small child's hand, foot, a personal outline of someone's body. We need things that are better displays, bigger displays, brighter, higher resolution. This all led to what the survey pointed out. We had a lot of very dissatisfied customers. It leads to a lack of trust in thermal imaging usage across all brands, not just one, but all. Firefighters are very famous for, if they get a bad taste in their mouth or a bad impression, they will hold that grudge forever until you otherwise convince them of that. So my goal is to show you how far along they've come and some improvements, and how some of these are truly life-saving devices. And this is just one example of how far situational awareness cameras have come. This is a video of the FirePRO 300. We just took this video in actual Colorado. We were in North Metro, and this is one of the evolutions we did. And I want you to see the difference in the speed and the image clarity and the colorization and how it looks. You have a fire room downstairs. You can see the heat moving upstairs. You can see your TI basic color palette. You're able to see the floor and the fire simultaneously thanks to mixed gain mode, which Seek offers. And you can see through the colorization. And in survey mode, it highlights colors earlier at 150 degrees. This is obviously too hot for survey mode, but also shows you next door that room wasn't showing any color earlier, and now it is. And you can still see through the color even at saturation, and pick up details through the panels and see the convection currents moving through the colorization upstairs, which inside the burn building, all you saw was fire in the corner. You didn't see the heat itself moving upstairs without the device. You can see the floor is superheated. All of that from a device that costs less than an iPhone or an Android right now. That's impressive. We're able to scan around, find fire, find our way out, look at our crew members, see what's going on. I can see whether he's, his gear's getting hot. I can see his bottles dark. All of that's important information. I can see the windows open, all through a device. Previously, this was not possible. So let's talk about the devices that Seek currently offers and how they can benefit you. In the realm of situational awareness, there's two models that they make, a FirePRO 200 and a FirePRO 300. This is a picture of the FirePRO 200 from my friend, Instructor Joey Baxley. He has a company called JB Photo. And you can see the picture of the firefighter with the fire training environment behind them. The difference in the 200 and 300 is pretty straightforward. The housing looks the same, the buttons look the same, but the internal parts differ. You have a different field of view, which is much more narrow, and you also have a lesser resolution quality. You're looking at a 206 by 156, which is, per the instructions, 200 by 150, which puts you at around 30,000 pixels for firefighter map. The refresh rate is the same, the thermal sensitivity is the same, and the battery life is the same, which is phenomenal. This is a little lower cost option for firefighters if you're looking for more of a personal safety device. That's the FirePRO 200. If you look at the FirePRO 200 side by side with the 300, you see the difference in that narrow field of view when we look at these two sterno cans side by side. You only capture one of the sterno cans in front of you versus the 300 captures both. So it works really well with objects within 2 meters or around 7 feet. They're very sharp and in focus. Its durability and battery life are identical to the FirePRO 300 and currently outperforms all the other models on the market because it has a higher resolution and a faster refresh rate. Remember this when I tell you this, if you're wanting something for life safety, it needs to be fast, it needs to be simple, and it needs to be clear, okay? Whether you add bells and whistles, that's fine, but 9 hertz will hurt you. Remember that. You will not be able to move it and or you will not be able to keep up with you when you're in a deadly environment. You move your head too fast, you're done. So this is the difference in the FirePRO 200 versus the AttackPRO VRS. The FirePRO 200 has the exact same color palettes that the VRS offers, just like the FirePRO 300 does. And you can clearly see, looking down this hallway, the difference in that wider field of view the AttackPRO offers versus the FirePRO 200 is more narrow. Of course, it's already positioned in the vertical position, which means if you hold a FirePRO 200 or 300, you do not have to flip it sideways like we teach gangster grip. Very advantageous. But you also notice the pixels are a little pixelated in the FirePRO 200 versus the AttackPRO VRS. The AttackPRO VRS or FirePRO 300 gives you over double the amount of pixels on target, which gives you better image clarity. That's the difference in those two models right there. When we talk about the FirePRO 300, you can clearly see that this device has a much wider field of view. If you're familiar with the AttackPRO series cameras, the decision-making cameras, their field of view is 42 degrees vertically by 57 degrees horizontally. What Seek did is they took a lot of advice from us and firefighters about how they were having to turn the camera sideways to get that increased field of view from floor to ceiling. This model is already turned in that orientation. So now when you hold it straight forward like a cell phone, you're able to see the floor and ceiling in one shot, which increases your chances of seeing things. It's very successful for you. It doesn't limit you in your scans. You can do your scan in about 1 to 2 moves versus a 6-sided scan. The buttons, you can work with a gloved hand. The center button is actually used for photo or video. The dynamic range is the same, or temperature range is the same as the 200. It operates off a mixed gain mode, It has TI basic and survey mode. However, the 300 has 320 by 240, which is 76,800 pixels. Plus it has video recording option, which is pretty neat for me and anyone doing training. The thermal sensitivity and battery life is the same. And if you want to look this up and learn more about this device, we have 2 webinars on our YouTube channel that you can just focus solely on the FirePRO 300. It's one of the best selling cameras on the market right now because it gives you decision-making capabilities in a situational awareness housing. If you look at this simple overview, you can see the buttons here. They're big enough for a gloved hand, unlike the FirePRO X where you couldn't do that well. Plus, they made it where you could wipe the lens very easily from the front, and they've actually recessed that back 1 millimeter so it's less likely to shatter. That is one of the most common areas of a thermal imaging camera to be damaged, which is the germanium window. Seek and Bullard are the only ones I know of that have dual redundancy lens. If that lens gets shattered, there's another lens behind it, so you can still keep working until you got out of the fire to be able to fix it. most of the other manufacturers, if you break the lens in a fire, you could potentially damage the camera beyond repair, because you could get moisture inside the detector, which you don't want to do. Just a little gee whiz fact, if you press the power button and the application mode simultaneously, those two buttons, you double click them like each thumb on each side, you can go through the application modes, just click, 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 and you can be in survey mode instead of pressing and hold the application mode for 3 seconds, 3 more seconds and waiting. The FirePRO 200 versus the FirePRO 300, obviously there are distinct differences, but the biggest difference I wanted you to see is just in image clarity. You're getting a much better picture in the 300 than the 200. The 200 gives you more of a personal safety. You can see my way out, see objects, but the FirePRO 300 gives you more of a higher resolution photo picture and able to see things, especially for RIT purposes and things of situational awareness. It's very good for that. It gives you the same image quality as the FirePRO VRS, or FirePRO Plus. So you basically have decision-making tick power in a smaller situational awareness tick housing, which is extremely valuable. Very powerful little device. So I get this a lot. Well, if the FirePRO 300 does everything the FirePRO does, and it's $1,000, why should I buy an FirePRO that's 3 times the price? Great question. Here's the real reason. I'm going to give you 2 vehicles and put the same high-powered engine in both of them. And I'm going to crash both of these vehicles into each other at 80 miles an hour. Which one of these vehicles do you think that someone's going to walk away from? The little smart car with the same engine in it is going to be destroyed. Your FirePRO 300 has a big high-power engine in it, but it does not have the durability and insulative properties that the FirePRO does. For those of you who are doing live fire training and using it on your instructors, you will find out you can overheat that device, or you will not do that to the FirePRO because it has a much larger air gap in it and it's much more durable. FirePRO 300 is designed for the rigors of average everyday firefighting. It is not designed for you to sit in there for long periods of time because the inside interior failure temperature is quite different. So people need to know that because they don't read the instructions. I don't want you to get upset when you bought it and it's like, well, it overheated. Well, yeah, it's 1 inch thick versus 5 inches thick. And if you look at the instructions, whether it's the FirePRO 200 or 300, they can only take an interior temperature of 302 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes, or 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius for 1 minute. 1 minute. Whereas the reverse on the FirePRO, it can take up to 250 degrees for 20 minutes internally, or 500 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes internally, 260 C. I have to talk in Celsius for my friends overseas. So they're both great devices, but you've got to look at the thickness of it, the insulative properties, and the durability. These were built for firefighting, but they're not built for you to sit in a fire training environment for long periods of time, knowing that your gear will absorb heat, so will this device. So if you ever see a red triangle show up in the top center of the screen with a thermometer in it, that is telling you that the inside of that device has reached that point and it's beginning to overheat. You don't exit the structure, you're going to have a camera that no longer works and that you will have voided the warranty. So every manufacturer offers that same protection and tells you that in the instruction manual. So let's talk about the power of these devices and how they can help you. These devices offer something that previous situational awareness cameras did not. They're life-saving technology. Because now I have something that keeps up with me. It's simple, it's fast, it's clear, and it gives you significant benefits on the fire ground. Michael Whitty, in his research paper, Maximizing Thermal Imaging Use in Emergency Services, talks about thermal imaging is without a doubt the technology that will protect our most valued asset in the fire service, and that is our firefighters. Without our firefighters, we can't perform our mission. So if they ever get in a bad place, which odds are it will happen to you in your career if you haven't had it happen yet, you need a plan B. You need to train on that plan B. You need to know how to find your way out, find the fire, find your crew. These are things we can help you with, and our partners can help you with. This is life-saving technology because it's never has there been a device at this price point with this performance and this speed and this image clarity with something called mixed gain mode to give you this type of option. So here's my problem. Perhaps you're familiar with the definition of insanity, where we repeat the same thing over and over again and we wonder why we don't get a different result. Here's my problem. I'm tired of seeing firefighters lose. Firefighters should not die in residential buildings. I'm sorry, they shouldn't. They should win every single time. If a building inspector within 30 minutes can figure out where the problems in your home are, walking around looking with an industrial grade camera, in about 90 seconds, walking around a building, looking at the front door with proper training, a firefighter should be able to know where the fire is, where they should search, the pathways to the bedrooms. Boom. If they've never been in the burning building before, they could do that. They could monitor conditions inside. They could monitor their crews. They could use it for stream placement. But it's a sad fact that we continue to see firefighters getting lost. And when you look at our environment, which is total darkness and heat, this should be required for every firefighter. This comes from an article from Fire Engineering from Jay Parker in 2010 on staffing and tactics for firefighter survival. I'm telling you, it's going to come to the point where, like past devices used to be separate from us, now they're integrated. It's going to be mandatory. So why don't we get ahead of the curve, learn the technology, learn how to use it properly, learn the contraindications, which is part of our training standards if you read them, and use these to win on the fire ground and help firefighters get home. Because sadly, there's a lot of people basically diminishing firefighter deaths. Oh, nobody's died during search. Nobody's died doing this. I hate to break it to you that many firefighters don't die on the fire ground anymore. We die due to overexertion, basically heart stress. We die due to getting run over out on the interstate. But a handful of us die every year the exact same way. And from 2016 to 2022, we're looking at 23 firefighter line of duty deaths that died from being lost, caught, trapped, or disoriented. 23. Now, you may think, oh, 23 is not a big deal. The Firefighter Rescue Survey points out that 3 to 4% of all rescues were from when people said there was no one in there. Well, 3 to 4% is worth it. 23 is worth it. Because without those 23, we can't go save the 3 to 4%. So we need to put the same emphasis on making firefighters win, not keeping them out of the building, but giving them the tools, the skills, and the abilities and the technology to win, and if they get in a bad place, to find their way out and solve or self-rescue. As I listened to Jocko Willink's thing about default aggressive, it doesn't mean being default aggressive to people. It means being default aggressive to problem solving. That's what I want you to be. Aggressive to problem solving. We call it intelligently aggressive. These statistics demand that. Because if you look even further into the mayday statistics from Don Abbott, up to 35% of firefighters who declared a mayday were able to rescue themselves. So what if we were able to train and equip every firefighter with a thermal imaging camera and teach them how to self-rescue? Those percentages could go up. And what if we equipped every firefighter on the fire ground with a high-resolution situational awareness camera, where it says in the statistics 90% of them were rescued by someone already operating inside the structure? Well, we could make all of this get better in saving our own procedures. This is not, anecdotal data. This is from Don Abbott. This is from line of duty deaths. This is stuff I pulled from Firefighter Rescue Survey. This is from research papers. We continue to have the same problems, but we're not fixing this. We can get better. We can get out if we get in trouble, because it's going to happen. You work in an environment that's dangerous, things could go bad. It's not if, it's when. So why don't we work on figuring out how we can prevent it and also how we can handle it? So when it happens, we're not surprised, because maydays will happen, disorientation will happen. But if we have a backup plan, we have the comfort of knowing that we can lead our firefighters out. And this U.S. firefighter disorientation study from 1979 to 2001, it went over 17 incidents. This is William Moore's work, who also wrote the book Preventing Firefighter Disorientation, focuses on 23 line of duty deaths. Many of those similarities that still cause maydays and line of duty deaths today. He identified something called the disorientation sequence, which I highly recommend you look up or check out our article on our website that gives you the cliff notes of it if you don't want to read the big book. One of the problems that's pointed out in that and line of duty deaths is lack of TIC usage, or the lack of TIC even being there, and the proper training on these devices is still a problem. Some of the NIOSH reports I have read, NIOSH is even quoting what happened to the camera improperly, saying the camera whited out. The new ones don't white out due to heat. If they had a white or uniform temperature screen, they had one of three problems, and most of them have to do with the firefighter not wiping the lens. We can show them how to fix that. This data is everywhere. We need to apply this data and be better at preventing these things from happening and managing them when they do. So why are these things important to you? If you have a mayday incident from Don Abbott's work, it takes 2.5 minutes for a RIT team to get ready, 3 minutes for them to enter, 6 minutes from entry point to firefighter. Average time to rescue was 21 minutes with 21 firefighters. Average work time on SCBA, depending on who you are, could be between 15 and 18 minutes, which leads to the other statistic that 1 out of every 5 RIT teams experiences a mayday. Read the reports. You will find out that the people who tried to rescue the person in trouble also ended up getting in trouble. Look at One Meridia Plaza. They had to rescue them off the roof. Look at the Charleston 9. 9 additional firefighters got lost and disoriented trying to rescue their own. What is the common thread in all of these? Lost and disoriented. How can we do a better job of that? The TIC is just one part of the solution. It is not the solution, but it should be equipped, ready, and the firefighters should be trained on how to use it. There are more firefighters frustrated with thermal imaging because they lack the education and training their departments don't provide. We are making this free everywhere. If you Google hard enough, you can find our whole program online. There is no excuse. We even have a free online article that goes through the basics so that you don't have to be without this. Because I want you to win on the fire ground and get home to your family. It's that simple. So if you have a situational awareness TIC, what should you train people on? It's quite simple. 2 things. Once you give them prerequisite knowledge on what the symbols mean, how to operate the device, basic end user behavior, how to carry it, how to scan, how to wipe the lens, you need training the firefighters on 2 things: object identification and hazard identification. Why? Because if I can identify objects, I can find my way to the problem or away from the problem. That could be firefighters or victims, could be door frames, doors, windows, fuse lines, floors, ceilings. Think about drop ceilings. I can follow a pattern, stairs, infrastructure. What if I look at a commercial door in a commercial building and I see the panic bar and it sticks out like a sore thumb because it's metal, and metal is a low emissivity object, the shiny metal is, and it makes the camera think it's a different temperature, so it stands out. So I can see it. Check out our video. Second point in here is hazard identification. If you clearly look above this firefighter's head, you can see the hazard above his head and what's radiating down on his helmet. If we teach them to look for these things, thermal severity, convection currents, even live energized electric equipment, firefighters can do their job in a hazard environment safer. The word safe is thrown out there, but I can tell you, training firefighters makes them safer. Giving them these 2 components can help them, and those 2 components need to be trained on regularly, at least once per year. Per the 1408 standard, you shall have classroom hands-on live fire 1 time per year, and you need to train them to look for these objects and know what it looks like through your thermal imaging camera. What these doors look like in low heat, high heat, terrible conditions with high moisture content. What do stair railings look like? What do drop ceiling tiles look like? What do door casings look like, or moldings? Why is that important? You find the door. What about floor vents or ceiling vents? They're typically either above or below a window. What does a charged hose line look like leading down the hallway? Could be dark, could be white, depending on the background and what's going on. What does this firefighter look like through a thermal imaging camera when he or she is breathing air? We can tell this is an MSA air pack. We can see that this firefighter is breathing air and doing fine. They need to clip their Seek Attack Pro to them, but other than that, they're doing well. So we can see what's going on. It gives us our eyes back, as my instructor Thomas Anderson points out. That's our mission, to give your eyes back so you can go and do your job. When I talk about object and hazard identification, here's a set of stairs that was in 0 visibility to the left. The center photo from the FirePRO 300 in survey mode shows an actual wire hanging down that was part of the HVAC that melted in an actual structure fire. I want to ask you what a hose line looks like. This is a firefighter looking towards the fire in a shipping container. You can see the dark hose line leading down to the edge of the nozzle. You can see the water on the floor and the reflection. You can see the OSB covering the door on the left, poor attempt to close the door, by the way, and heat coming out the door at the very end. This is in Chula Vista, California. So I always point out the places we've been because I'm grateful for every place we've ever been. But these are all examples that you could create. You could frame out rooms and show firefighters what it looks like, and then you can help them regain orientation. You get them to stop, listen, look with their flashlight, and if they don't know where they're at, call their mayday, and then use their tick and scan for hose lines, doorways, signs of fire, windows, and other firefighters, like this video we took in Ames, Iowa. This is a FirePRO 300 looking into the container system. There's the stairs. You can see the heat around the door frame indicating heat moving up and out. You can see the heat in that next room. Stairs again in survey mode. The survey mode shows colorization earlier than fire mode or TI basic. There's the stairs in fire or TI basic. Notice the colorization's gone, but the convection is very clear, which can tell us the direction and severity of the fire, which helps firefighters not be surprised. There's the mannequin on the floor. You can actually see the nail heads coming through the floor there. By the way, if you're crawling through there and the nail heads are glowing white, that's a problem. Because why would they be glowing white? That's called a thermal bridge. Got video of firefighters crawling over the top of a basement fire, and the only clue was the nail heads glowing through the hardwood floor. They felt heat, but they had good visibility and no signs of actual fire where they were at. But the camera picked it up and they backed out. That's improving situational awareness on the fire ground through thermal imaging. Okay. When we talked about 35% of all the maydays involve self-rescue, look at the picture of the FirePRO X original one on the left compared to the FirePRO 300 today. In Michael Whitty's paper, one of the surveys they did when firefighters were lost or disoriented, if they were equipped with a tick, given a tick during that point, they were able to find their way out to an egress point 100% of the time. A trapped firefighter who, if he can't get out, he or she can relay more information to command or the RIT team by using the tick to identify objects around them. Where's the fire? What are they trapped in? Where's the closest door if they can't move? They can use that to locate small objects they might become entangled in, because Seek is the only manufacturer that allows you to use your camera and look at objects at 12 inches away. Every other camera on the market needs 3 feet or will not focus on it. So you need this to be your personal safety device. And you can see why it's valuable. When you're working on down firefighters, such as in a RIT scenario, you can see their regulator lines, you can see the EVSS connections, you can see everything you need to do before you touch them. Do they need a regulator? Is their face piece off? Is their bottle dark? Is their waist belt buckled? Sometimes these buckles and the connection points are shiny metal, which stick out on the camera because they're low emissivity objects, such as an MSA bottle has a metal band across it. I can look down the hallway and say that's an MSA pack and that's a Scott pack. Scott has dark bottle and the dark second stage regulator on the back, or reducer. And then where your MSA has the bottle, you would see would be dark, but it has the metal band, which tells me that's an MSA bottle. My guys all wear Taylor's 10s metal shields that are etched. I can see their shield because they're etched where they have a metal etching behind it. I can see what needs to be done before I even touch the person. Does that make it more efficient for you and for that down firefighter to know what they need? Instead of trying to figure it out in the dark, as my friend Jake Latson said, we call Maydays late. It's a reactive measure. We got to buy back time. That's the key in these scenarios. You check this video out, which is also from Ames, Iowa. You can notice when I'm really close to this firefighter, not too far away, look how clear this is. You can see the detail in his gloves. I can see the detail of what's wrapped around that mannequin. You can look there on the floor and see the detail in his boot. I can see the nail heads in the floor. I can see the thermal layering, the victim on the right. There's another victim down at the end on the left. Many people aren't able to see that. It is very hard to see. I can see that firefighter if they're wearing everything properly. I can see that metal tab on the back of their helmet. All this is clear. I can see the stairs to my left in a low to zero visibility environment. A quick scan can give me valuable information. To quote my friend Chief Mitchum, I want to take seconds to win minutes. You say take seconds to gain minutes. I said win minutes. So I butchered your quote, Chief. I'm sorry. But I still remember it. When you look down this hallway, you can clearly see the thermal layer. You can see the firefighter scanning. Very valuable device. Fast, easy, weighs 325 grams. It's not in your way. You can clip it to you. You can put it in your radio pocket and have it clipped. Just have one of these on you and you go into that environment. Because here's my problem. When I read these NIOSH reports, there's two things that keep showing up. If you summarize everything together, they either were unaware of changing conditions, whether it's fire, or they were unaware that it was about to collapse. So if we give them this information, allow them to scan before they enter each room, just before they enter each room and just get a quick intel of what they're getting into, they can figure out what needs to be done. If they need to enter that room, if they need to go a different way, close doors, whatever it may be, they use their critical thinking skills based on that data, put the camera down and go to work. This camera gives them that data at higher resolution with no lag and allows them to see cold and hot areas simultaneously due to mixed gain mode. Plus, it colorizes pixel by pixel instead of waiting on a percentage of pixels to have a board meeting and agree and shift from high to low sensitivity. It's the only camera on the market that does that. So that allows for improved image clarity and allows you to see a victim on the floor with heat behind him without washing out, which a lot of cameras do. You can even see the difference from where the water is spilled on this floor, where the hose line is. As you notice, as we get further back, you do have some washout at that heat level there. You're getting a lot of heat on those firefighters right there, where the floor is very clear. This gives you a clear image. It's cost effective, it's simple, and allows you to find your way and do your job more effectively and do it with confidence, knowing this also has a 6-hour battery life, so I don't have to worry about dying on me while I'm inside. See this little video here as we scan around and see how clear this is. When I talk about unaware of changing conditions, this little snapshot of the MSA pack coming down the hallway on this firefighter, coming down the stairs, pretty impactful because they're coming down the stairs to do a basement attack and they come down, don't flow any water at all. They don't even have any idea what's hitting them in the helmet, and more importantly, in that 2 to 3 millimeter polycarbonate thing known as a face piece. They are taking a massive amount of heat. And the things that I always point out in our classes, we talk about unaware of changing conditions. When I read these NIOSH reports, firefighters fail to read fire behavior indicators and recognize fire conditions before they change. They read the building, they read the smoke, but fail to read the heat, and we are surprised. Ventilation, whether horizontal or vertical, shall be coordinated with fire attack. That's basically NIOSH speak for when we showed up, we made the fire worse. We vented and didn't give it water. We gave it air, it got bigger. And the last two are probably the most profound. The firefighters found themselves between the fire and the ventilation point. That's a chimney or unidirectional exhaust. Go on NIST page, go on UFRSI's page, read the reports. Anytime you read unidirectional exhaust in the flow path, in the full exhaust, it's never good what happens. And then the last one can happen to any of us. Firefighters can have difficulty locating the fire. Don Abbott's work showed the top 25 contributors to maydays was encountering high heat conditions, unable to locate the fire. If they're taking high heat and they can't find the fire, where are they? They are in fire's flow path or the convective flow path somewhere, and potentially are about to be in the fire itself. It's important we allow them to recognize that. It's important we give them the tools, such this shows you as they push down the stairs how much heat they're taking long before they open the nozzle, not knowing their gear is almost saturated. Look at how much heat's over their head. Look at this one here, the amount of heat pushing past. All this can be visible. We can use the reach of our screen, no matter what the nozzle, whatever the package, we can reach further and put water downrange, cool where we're at, cool where we're going, whether it's an offensive posture, a defensive posture, whatever it may be, we can use that data to mitigate it and act accordingly. That's what this is for. You can't fix a problem you can't see, not adequately. And if I have to choose between being blind and saving your family or knowing the pathway to find your family and seeing that, I would rather have the sight, even if it was just for a few seconds. It doesn't slow you down, it speeds you up. I will warn you, if you stare at it like a video game, it can cause you problems. So for all my search friends who have trouble with firefighters using ticks, that's why, because they won't put it down. We teach scan, communicate, and put it down. And that scan, you look outside of a building like this, could be your best scan and the one that gives you the most information. Like these guys here going in a live burn environment should have looked, because what is coming out that top of that door frame is convection currents. Watch what we don't do. We don't get down. We stick our face in the full exhaust. Watch when we go survey mode. Now, I just did a webinar with FireDex. We talked about the effects of heat on the human body. If you raise your core temperature 1 degree, you can start to have auditory exclusion. So you can't hear when they call out victim, 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 or you can't hear the victim's cries for help because you've got too hot. Just 1 degree. That's all it takes. Now, we're not even talking about mass failure. We're talking about us failing. So these devices can help you be so much more effective. This is the other side of that view. You saw the thermal view. Why don't you take a look at what it looks like after they already entered and tell me if this changes your perspective, looking at outside with a cell phone video camera followed by looking at the seat. Are they taking a little bit of heat to their head right here, especially where this person's standing? Are we flowing adequate water in this fire? No. If we are, we're losing. Quote my friend Kyle Romgus, I either didn't bring enough water with me, I'm not putting in the water in the right place, or I got a wind-driven event. All of those are WWW. Those are win-win-win for the fire, not for me. I've got to hurry up and figure out I'm doing something wrong. I need to do something right. And this gives you the data to fix it and do something right. Quickly, easily, doesn't get in your way. Last thing you need is something big and bulky in your way, but it gives you the power to do so. Another thing that FirePRO 300s are excellent for situational awareness cameras that have an investigative mode is overhaul use. Because this device offers survey mode, you can see problems that still need to be addressed, such as this lath and plaster house fire. That's some work right there. That's a lot of lath that needs to be pulled. A lot of water needs to be flowed. I hope Red Cross is coming. We're going to need some Gatorade and crackers and cookies because we're going to be tired after you do this. So this helps you see this, because one of the problems I have is the most misused way the camera is being used, in my opinion, is search and overhaul. They're not using it correctly on those two. In overhaul, they read the spot temperature. You can clearly see the spot temperature jumping around here. The spot temperature was removed from NFPA 1801 TI Basic due to misinterpretation and due to it leading to 3 separate line of duty deaths as a contributing factor. So we look for heat and understand what heat patterns look like. So we make it an asset, not a detriment. We know the limitations, we know the benefits, and we use it to maximize our efforts. Please know it's not X-ray vision. You can't look at a wall and know exactly what's behind the wall. It matters the wall itself, how well insulated it is, the materials, and that comes down to your basic building construction knowledge firefighters need to focus. The last time I checked, friend Joe DeVito quoted that less than 1% of all firefighting texts focused on fire behavior. So we've got some problems in our basic training. So we don't know what the fire is doing, and we don't have enough building construction knowledge, and then we have zero thermal imaging training. That's the trifecta. We're in trouble. This is an example of how survey mode can be a benefit to you in this device. Firefighters are finishing mop up at this building fire. The picture on the right is TI Basic or fire mode in the FirePRO 300. Quick switch to survey mode by doing the double clicks I told you about. We can clearly see the areas that are still superheated between 150 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. These are apparent temperatures, they're estimated values, so we know in fact they are much hotter than this. So there are areas that are wall, door casing, and around the ground that I still need to cool off. Unless you like the dreaded rekindle, which means return to the fire, which means return to the chief's office and say, dear chief, I find myself explaining to you, no, let's not do that. Let's take care of the problem the first time and use it appropriately. So ticks are recommended for you to use in many ways, especially size up, fire attack, search, and overhaul. However, many of the cameras out there colorize temperatures late. If you look at a Seek thermal product line, whether it's the decision-making cameras or the situational awareness cameras, they all use something called mixed gain mode, which means each pixel, if it gets to that temperature point where it's programmed, it will colorize. So in fire mode on the left, if 1 pixel is 302 degrees, it's going to colorize it yellow, between 300 to roughly 575. So if you're in survey mode, it's going to colorize beginning at 150. So choose the right color palette to the right application and use it accordingly. A good friend of mine said we should use investigative mode such as survey mode early or late in the incident. You don't want to use it in a very high heat environment, is what firefighters used to talk about. When cameras got too hot, they would white out. Now you would get red out. You would go saturation, all red everywhere. We have some video examples right there in that QR code of what survey mode looks like. So when seconds count, ladies and gentlemen, early colorization helps you and assist you doing your task, identifying the task at hand and what needs to be tore out and what might not need to be tore out, right? Here's another one. We can use this to locate heat sources. My research showed that last year, the United States ran 3.1 million false alarms. 3.1 million. They ran 1 million fire calls, 3.1 million false alarms. The only call that exceeded false alarms was lift assist. That tells you where we're going as a country. The FirePRO 300 offers survey mode, which can help you identify smells and bells. I smell something burning in my home, overheated light ballast. And if you look at what we do in a lot of training, you can tell that your stoker cadre here needs to come out and get out of his gear because they are saturated. You don't need to touch that with your bare hands or push on their shoulder, or they'll talk about your mama, because that will be a compression burn. Look at the back of his ear flaps on his helmet. It's a lot of heat. That's absorption or cumulative heat transfer. If his gear is saturated, he's going to come out flapping his wings telling you don't touch him. He knows. This tells you, get out of that. Do not go right back in. You will get burned. That's one of the number one things I see. It's about 7,000 firefighters get burned every year in training. Wonder why? Because come out like this and turn around and go right back in and get burned and had no idea that my gear was maxed out. You reach the end of your thermal protective performance and never even knew it. So the FirePRO 300 is a game changer. You look at this video from Parker, Texas. My guys were training on there. The convection currents are clear and easy to identify, the thermal severity, and locating the seat of the fire. Convection equals direction. You can follow those back to the fire or use it to follow your way out if you were trapped or lost. This camera has the widest field of view on the market, has the fastest refresh rate. It switches pixel by pixel thanks to mixed gain mode. It has the lowest thermal sensitivity comparable to $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 devices, and it's ergonomic. Hold it like a cell phone, and every person who owns a cell phone can afford one. It's easy, it's intuitive, and it's a lifesaver, and it's a game changer for the stuff you do on the fire ground. Because the majority of the fire service, ladies and gentlemen, is dealing with reduced staffing. They may not be able to put a $3,000 to $5,000 device on the firefighters, but they can put one of these on every firefighter, and they can make a difference. Simple, it's easy. This is what we call an innovation in the industry, or in leadership, they call it disruptive leadership. It is a welcome change that needed to happen because this device will save lives if used properly. Here's the actual specifications of it if you're interested in that. It can take a beating, but I will warn you, it is not a decision-making camera. It is not a hammer. Don't break windows out with it. So it gives you everything the big camera does, but it does not have the insulative power. It does not have the durability, so you don't have that air gap. You don't have the lens protection. If you look on the front where the lens is, it's recessed back just a bump, whereas on the Attack Pro, it's recessed back over an inch with that cantilever cover, so it keeps you from trying to break the lens. However, you have dual lens redundancy, which is very smart because we are hockey players, not ballerinas. When it comes to working, we tear stuff up, unfortunately. So they were smart enough to do that, and the connection point is made of a very durable metal, so you can have something strong to connect to. If you are interested in learning more about everything we shared with you today, one of the things that we want to do is help the fire service. A lot of people don't like this, but I'm just telling you straight up, I used to not give away stuff, and I realized how selfish and sinful that was. Everything I have is available for anyone who wants it. We have hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel that are organized by playlist. This video will be on there in a couple days. We have a Seek Thermal public share folder where this presentation is already there, along with numerous other ones and resources about it and videos. And then you can go to our Seek Thermal resource page, and it's 14 hours of webinars, which will be 15 after this, all for you. Why? Because I want you to win. Bottom line. You have my heart, fire service. I may not be active on the line with you anymore, but you're active in my heart, and I pray for you every day. I've been to too many funerals, and I've seen too much bad stuff happen. I want you to win. I hope this was worth your time. I'll let Scott close us out. God bless you all. Keep up the good work. And if you need anything, my contact information is on my website. Go to insighttrainingllc.com and hit contact us. It goes straight to me. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. Another great webinar. And for everybody else out here, if you have any questions, please feel free to go to our website. We've got a free burn program. So just go to our website. Sorry for my volume here, by the way, I'm at airports. www.thermal.com. That's our website. We've got a lot of information. And with that being said, everybody have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.